on this weird sort of cloud where I was like, I'm talking to Julian Fellowes. This is really odd. Cool. And he said, well, why don't you come and join me next month for some drinks down at the Cadogan Hotel and Restaurant in Sloane Square. Yeah, it was really quite it was very surreal. I was just like...
Drinks on you?
Yeah, I was like thinking, oh God, I hope I need to rack up as many bits of coins as I can for that place.
Welcome to The Actor and Agent, aka The Dirt or The Skinny, with me, Jen.
And me, Snezina.
Okie dokie, so we are recording and we are here with another Brit, which is so exciting for me today. And not only is he another Brit, which is just fantastic anyway for me, but he's also been on Downton Abbey and The English Game. I mean, that's pretty freaking cool. Welcome, Joncie Elmore.
Hello. Very nice to be here.
Oh, it's so lovely to have you. And especially that cool accent, it goes well with the...
Yeah, with the, I suppose also the intro as well. When you say The English Game and Downton Abbey, it sort of fits the mark, I suppose.
Fits the mark. Yes, perfect. Fancy. So fancy. I mean, we have sort of briefly touched on this before, but Joncie, that's a very interesting name.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Sure. So when I was at play school in London, I called my full name is John Francis, and when I was younger I couldn't pronounce my name, and there was a girl in my play school that I eventually also went to primary school with, bizarrely, called Christy Maloney, and she said, start calling me Joncie. And it kind of stuck, and it's one of those things that it sort of was something, I don't know, it just it fit for my parents, but fit for me at the time, I suppose, and hearing, I suppose, people hearing my parents who've got very sort of broad Irish accents, it's sort of, Joncie.
Yeah, I love it.
Joncie, how are you? You're right there. How's it going? But I know if I was in trouble when I was younger, it would be John Francis.
Yes.
So it's one or the other. But I rarely hear John Francis anymore.
Yeah, it'd be pretty intense for your parents to hunt you down when you've done something wrong and be like, John Francis, what have you been up to?
It's also a bit long in the tooth, and it's just and Joncie gets straight to the point. So it's sort of it's it's one of those where it's a name that when I got to bigger school, it sort of led to some very interesting rhymes that I won't mention, but it was that's school for you and that's boys for you, so it's you learn to live with it. So
you know what, it's not just boys, I think it's just people for you. I think they'll find something.
Well, and I think as well, I think some auditions as well, I've had the interesting, I think that was a commercial audition I had, and I went in, and there are probably about, like all commercial auditions, there are tons of people there, and it was it was supposed to be a boy-girl sort of relationship thing, some guy proposing to his girlfriend. It was like HSBC commercial, and I just remember, that usual waiting when you're doing a commercial audition, which I was like, oh God, let's be over really soon. And just the woman who calling out the name, she called out, would Joncie and Jeremy please? And I was like, hello, that's me. And they were like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I was like, didn't my agent give you any heads up on that?
Or like a headshot, or
and when you just look at that sea of faces, you go, that poor bastard. They don't even know who he is.
And then flash forward, you booked the gig.
No. Unfortunately, I think commercial auditions, I just go in anytime. I don't have as many. I haven't had as many recently, but like when I was starting out, I was sort of just went in with you always go in with a sort of just like, yeah, I'm probably not going to get this, but I'll give it the best I can. It's that sort of logic where you go, I don't, you know what I mean? It's that sort of thing where you're just like,
it's so subjective.
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
What they want.
Absolutely. Well, it's also, it almost feels, I suppose, as a lot of actors, they always say it feels very impersonal because it's so sort of, they're
Next.
like, it's sort of more so than sort of regular stuff, whether it's TV, film, or theatre. That I think when someone has seen like the 10,000th person of the day, they're like, all right, just do it for God's sake. Yeah, okay.
Just eat that yogurt. Just
Well, yeah, I remember I climbed a mountain. I was supposed to climb a mountain once and it was so embarrassing. I mean, commercial auditions are so embarrassing because they just ask you to. They ask you to. It was for a car. It was for car advert, and I was like, well, presumably I'm just going to be sitting down. And it was like, they were like, so Joncie, what we'd really like you to do, we'd like you to climb a mountain because we want there are two guys who are climbing, and then they finally reach the car of their dreams. And I was just like,
right.
Jesus Christ, okay. And then I'm pretending to climb in this room with nothing to climb in.
Brilliant.
And I just literally felt the blood drain from my face because there was like the guy who was just watching me very blankly, and then then because what they have is with a lot of commercial things, they have the people who are assigned to that particular company, so they're just completely uninterested in actors and acting and anything to do with the arts whatsoever. Who's just sitting really blankly in the background with a coffee and just wishing they were somewhere else. And while I am there pretending to be climbing, wishing I was somewhere else. And
I would love to see that audition. Those are like the ones I live for. They're just like, you want to see them, don't you? Like when you're miming something.
It's either miming or actually another worse one is pretending to be in a car. You're sort of just, and it's like sitting on a plastic chair, just going. And they're like, okay, so you're in a car, and then you suddenly have to brake, and then the coffee spills, the imaginary coffee spills all over you.
Yeah.
And it's like, you actually become a terrible actor in that moment. Oh, the coffee has spilt all over me. What do I do? Shock. What great shock has happened? Oh dear.
I know. It's awful. It's like you go back to like you've never acted before.
I know. It's like, and then that same one actually was like, oh, you're at a florist. And you found some flowers for your mum. It's like, oh, seriously? No, no, I don't. And then it's also they just give you that blank thanks, thanks, bye.
Yeah. Have a lovely day.
Yeah, I used to walk all the way back to the station that's in the middle of nowhere, and that's the other thing. It's just the travel is the most demeaning about it all.
Yeah, well, I guess in a way, because actually Snezina and I have been talking about this a lot recently, about how the fact that after like this last year with COVID and stuff, the fact that I guess these auditions would be now more done via self-tape. So instead of embarrassing yourself in front of other people and having to travel there and pay to do it, you can just do it in the comfort of your own home, climbing a wall. Yeah,
absolutely. Actually for me, that's actually been a lot better. Just because, just that whole, because over the last, they take a lot longer to get back to you about stuff, but it's actually much, I prefer it more than anything, just because if you're given, I don't know, like a 10-page scene or something, and you've got just a few days to go through it, you kind of think, well, because also you kind of think about, do I stress out about learning the lines, or do I... Because, there are lots of techniques that you sort of learn with self-tapes as well, is you kind of go, well, look, I'm going to know this well enough, but I'm not going to overextend myself too much where I've just literally hurt myself so much that this is going to be learned inside and out. Yeah. So what I do is I do have like my, some prompting stuff just in front of me. Mm-hmm. So I'll have a script in front of me and I'll just be like, well, I'm not so it doesn't make me kind of just overthink about whether I get it or not. It actually really helps.
Yeah.
With just easing into an audition and not worrying so much that everything you have to remember everything word perfect. You will remember. It will seem on camera that you have, but just that that whole self-tape thing is just, for me, it's been great because it sort of changes the way that, that they see you as an actor.
Of course.
Much more, I mean, I don't mind going into meet people, of course, but I think self-tapes have been actually really, I mean, a lot of actors I know have said that they've really enjoyed it, actually just self-tapes, because you can just relax a bit more and not worry so much about it.
Yeah, I guess there's pros and cons for it. I mean, I really used to hate self-tapes, but now, to be honest, I've kind of come round to the idea of actually this is pretty good. I don't have to, because I live outside of London. So for me, it's just like, okay, cool. I don't have to pay like 30, 40 quid to go up there and maybe be nervous in my one shot and then be like, cocked it up. Whereas I could just do a couple of recordings of a self-tape and be like, yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
I'm ready. I'm bashing it out,
Well, I think that's absolutely right. And I think you just... I think as well, because you put yourself on the line sort of all the time, in that sort of stuff, and especially as well if you've only got like a few lines. Mm-hmm. That for me kind of, because sometimes you can go in. I've done auditions where I've just come in from Cambridgeshire and gone down and done. I did one thing for this Hollywood thing. That I just felt, I was like, why am I travelling down here for this one line? I remember having to go down a weird alleyway in the city of London and then up a staircase. And it was bizarre. It was for a big film. Like, you wouldn't have thought it was. And there was just two people with a camera just standing there and say, right, can you say your line, please? I was just like, oh man. Jesus. And that was all for that. And I could have easily done that on a self-tape and be none the wiser.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, no, that's that. I suppose I like them.
Yeah, the takeaway is
the long version, the short version is I like them.
No, I get it. I mean, have you been to any in-person auditions recently, or is it still just been self-tapes for you? Or
I've done.
Don't worry, I won't ask specifics.
No, it's fine. I've done some face-to-face, like I say face-to-face, on Zoom and things like that, just had a chat with people, but for the most part, because people have so much to get through, it's usually just been a self-tape. Right. And I mean, there's no difference really with it actually, in terms of you are in the comfort of your own home. I think it's also just about your preparation. If you feel prepared, it would just be the same as if you were going in, but I think there's the added benefit of going, I'm at home, I've got, I'm as prepared as I can be, and I don't have to travel. I suppose that's really just the main thing.
Yeah, no, totally. Actually, Snezina, are you getting many in-person like audition requests, or is it still self-tapes at the moment? Just thinking for Vancouver.
No, it's all self-tapes. I mean, the odd time this one casting director might ask you to come in, but it's like everything film and TV is via self-tape, which is great for the actors and makes a lot more work for me, but that's okay.
Yes, as episode 3 goes through why people don't read the brief or send you files in weird ways or by text or whatnot. It's just...
I'm sure both of you don't have any issues with that.
Definitely not.
My agent's a bit of a saint, I think, for me asking stupid questions with technology, because I'm like, oh, is that? Did you get that? Are you sure? It's like, no, I did, but it said it didn't really send. No, we definitely got it. Are you sure? So she's
that's okay. Everybody
she's very patient.
That. Yeah, it's fine.
I think that's a good question. Yeah,
like, has it come through? Is a good question.
I have heard one of my mates. I won't say who it was, but he said, do you reckon she'd mind if I send it via WhatsApp? And I was like, no. What? I know, but it's just because I've got the thing on my phone, but if I can't really send it. And I was just like, dude, don't. It's like, no. She won't respond. She won't, like,
just ignore it.
Just ignore it. I wish I could just not respond to those. I'm too nice where I'm like, okay, yeah, well, I've got it now, so I might as well deal with it.
I will upload it myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No, it's weird. Actually, Joncie, how did you actually start? Because obviously, was it something when you were young that you kind of thought, oh, I really want to do this? Or is it something you kind of fell into? Or
Well, so my mum is an actor. She's been an actor now for probably about, she'll hate me saying it, for about 50 odd years, but she will really hate me saying that.
That's all right.
I'll say for 20 years she's only been an actor, but I suppose I've been around it sort of most of my life, in terms of going on. I used to, as a kid, when my mum used to do theatre tours, I'd literally just be going with her. I've lived sort of all over the place really when it's come to, so whether it's my mum doing TV, film, or theatre. I lived in Dundee for about less than a year, but when I was about 3, my mum was doing a play at the Dundee Rep called She Stoops to Conquer, and I was at that age where it was like my dad was working in London, he'd come up every so often to see me, but what he noticed was I'd been away for maybe 4 months or so, and Dad had come up from London and noticed that I had a bit of a Dundee accent.
Amazing.
And so he was like, "You're right, Daddy." My dad in his sort of Irish accent was like, "What the hell's going on here? What's going on? Why is he suddenly sound completely different?"
Yeah, but when you're a kid, you're like a sponge. You like pick everything up.
Oh, that's the thing. I think it's also strange with my parents. My parents both coming from very working class Irish Catholic backgrounds, just on the border between North and South. My accent, as you sort of mentioned at the beginning, it's sort of been through the mill, so to speak. In terms of, because I used to go to a state school in Maida, Vale, and I used to have quite a London accent, and then then when I was 11, I got a scholarship to a private school in Twickenham. And just that sort of shift was quite, it's quite strange, especially for parents who come from a different country, to hear their children with very different accents to theirs. Yeah. However, I do have like certain words that a lot of my friends sort of comment on. Like if I say the word, I can't say it. When the English version of saying the word oven, right? I say oven. Okay. And they're very sort of Irish sort of things. I say things sort of slightly differently, and people go, "Oh, he says oven," or that's he's so Irish. And it's that sort of I suppose it's just the picking up stuff, really. Of course. And school, I think, is probably the number one place where that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's just your environment, and it's a fitting in tool as well, isn't it? Like just to...
Oh, completely. And I think that really sort of, going back to your original question, I think with regards to acting is the fact that I think it was a lot because even when my parents are now back in Ireland, but when I was younger, you always used to go back to Ireland, and I would always feel compelled to have an Irish accent just because I don't know, I felt very out of place. I briefly went to school over there, so when you get some wee Irish kids going, "Why have you got a weird accent? What's wrong with you?" And you're like, well, how do I explain it?
And then you just switch to Irish just to make them feel comfortable. It's like, it's fine.
Well, yeah, in a weird way, and I've always kind of done that, and I think to, I suppose, get into acting, that is kind of, I think it's always circulated around that sort of thing. I was always, my dad would probably tell you that I would spend hours upon end, probably even now. My wife is getting the brunt of it now, but just doing, does this sound like so and so, or does this, I'll just do annoying impressions until people just go, "Please stop, please."
Like, yeah, that's good. Yeah, you've got it in the bag.
Yeah, very good. Now stop, seriously. So I think it sort of draws a line there, being around my mum, and my dad's an artist and graphic designer, so it's I think I've always been in that sort of fold because my sister's an actor as well. So
oh, is she? Oh, right.
Yeah, so it's one of those where when you're around it so much, you kind of we almost sort of just fell into it, really. As much as my mum wasn't necessarily pushing us into it, she definitely wasn't pushing us into it at all. She was like, you'll never work, and you have to find something that's
stable
and and you're like, and I suppose I never really felt compelled to have that. I suppose not to say I never felt compelled to have stability, but I never felt compelled to kind of do something that was sort of run of the mill, like go to university and study a particular subject.
Yeah.
I sort of, acting was something that I suppose helped me kind of let loose a bit, and also you find people that you get on with as well that you wouldn't necessarily have found at school.
Yeah, absolutely.
which is great. Yeah.
So what was your first ever role? Like, it can be anything. Like, what was your first ever role?
I actually, it's literally popped into my mind now,
nice.
It's Billy Goat Gruff.
Oh.
When I was 3, I was at nursery. I was in nursery, and I played one of the 3 goats, and I remember that purely down to the fact that because even though my dad is an actor, he very much wanted to be when he was younger. And he's, aside from being an artist and being very creative, he's always very creative. Mm-hmm. And he thought, wouldn't it be great if you actually looked like a goat? And I was like, when you're at nursery, you're just like, no, what do you... So Dad actually decided that I should, aside from I remember the 2 guys who were playing the 2 other goats, Jack Nolan and David Martinez, they were just wearing jeans and a white top.
Nice.
And had sort of goat ears. But my dad thought, no, you're going to wear a white polo neck and white tights.
Whoa. And
I just remember, just being devastated. I was just like, why? I don't want to do this. You're like, please, Daddy, no, please.
Emotionally scarred at 3.
I don't want to wear tights. Mummy wears tights. And it's this sort of thing. And it was that sort of, you're 3 years old, and my dad recreates this quite often, actually, this story, but it was just me just going, no, please. I'm going to school in tights. It was just such a, and the irony, however many years later, he actually does don tights, actually becomes an actor, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
gosh, that's so funny. One thing I did want to ask as well, because obviously having never been as high profile, never been on such high profile things that you have, but what was the audition process like for Downton?
I suppose I'll tell you how I got to get it, because it sort of was a very different way to how you normally get it. So when I was about 2 years out of drama school, and I'd been doing a bit of radio for BBC Radio Drama, and I did a few plays here and there. But it wasn't, I wasn't cranking anything out. It was like, I was sort of occasionally, stuck in the mud a bit. And my dad saw a article with Julian Fellowes. Mm-hmm. And this is sort of around the beginning time of Downton. So it was about 2000, they started about 2011. Mm-hmm. So about 2012. And my dad said, he said, well, why don't you write to Julian Fellowes? And I was like, what are you talking about? Just write to Julian Fellowes, and how does that even happen? And again, as I sort of stated earlier, Dad's a very creative guy, and he's a very talented artist. And he said, well, what we'll do is, because Julian is his full title, if you want to put it, is Lord Baron Fellowes of West Stafford.
Oh.
And because he was made a peer of the realm in the House of Lords and all this sort of stuff. And
blimey! But
it was quite an overwhelming thing. I was like, well, how are we supposed to address someone like this who's got these kind of credentials, aside from being in Monarch of the Glen and as an actor?
Mm.
I remember just asking Dad. I said, well, how are we going to do this? And he said, well, what we'll do is we'll create a sort of scroll. And we'll sort of, and turn it into calligraphized writing.
Wow. I was actually really hoping please tell me you sealed it with a wax.
Oh yeah, yeah. It all got. It was whack, but it was all very.
Wow.
It was all very like. It looked very official, sort of, and it sort of said, "Dear Lord Fellowes, congratulations on your recent peerage of the realm. My name's Joncie Elmore, and I was wondering if you could perhaps give me some advice." So we sort of sent this off. It was a leather sealed case with a wax thing on it, and
That's
because
amazing.
again, it's kind of just trying to sort of stand out, I suppose, because he obviously gets a lot of letters and stuff. And my dad, he won't tell me how he got it, but he managed to somehow find his address.
Oh wow!
Which I still don't know how he did that, but again, so we sent it off, and I thought, well, that's just going to go into the abyss, as these things so often do.
Yeah.
And we were in, my wife and I were in a flat, really grotty flat in Cricklewood. And then I remember just I was doing laundry or something in the kitchen, and my phone went, and so it went, hello, is that Joncie? It's Julian Fellowes here. I got your letter and I found it rather amusing. And I was just like, sorry? What are you talking about? I was in that sort of headspace where, who's Julian Fellowes? Oh, fuck, Julian Fellowes. That can't be Julian Fellowes. And I went through my mind, it was obviously going around 100 miles an hour, but I was thinking, oh, well, obviously this is one of my mates just pulling a prank on me. And I was very close to like saying, whoever, down the is that you? And then I sort of went, no, hello? Oh, hi. And it had a very weirdly, a very nice conversation, but I was sort of just on this weird sort of cloud where I was like, I'm talking to Julian Fellowes. This is really
so
odd.
Cool.
And he said, well, why don't you come and join me next month for some drinks down at the Cadogan Hotel and Restaurant in Sloane Square? Yeah, it was really quite sort of, it was very surreal. I was just like, okay, Julian Fellowes, I'll do that.
Drinks on you.
Yeah, I was like thinking, oh God, I hope I need to rack up as many bits of coins as I can for that place. But again, it was one of those things where you sort of, I remember, obviously my dad was delighted because he was like, well, this completely worked. Mm-hmm. I ended up going to the Cadogan, and obviously it was just completely odd because I went to the entrance and it was like, hi, I'm here to meet Julian Fellowes. It was like, and they were like, of course you are.
Yeah.
And then I met him. And obviously, he's a very lovely, genial man, and we were having a really nice conversation. And again, I can't remember necessarily about what, but it was just, Julian's very, very good at sort of just holding a room and sort of holding court, I suppose, as it were. And he, just was sharing all the sort of different experiences. I think it sort of steered the conversation in lots of different ways. But it was a really nice sort of meeting, and I got to know him over a good, it was really about sort of 3 or 4 hours or so. I mean, it was really quite extraordinary. And then, at the end of, went our separate ways, and I thought, well, that was really nice. I've met Julian Fellowes, and I didn't really think much of it from there on in. And then I think probably another month or so later, he gave me his email address, and I sort of said, thank you, it was really lovely meeting you, etc. Mm-hmm. And then about a month or so later, I got an email from Jill Trevellick, who's a casting director, and Jill said, would you like to come in? I've been recommended by Julian to come see you for this part in Downton. This was series 3, not the eventual series 4 that I did. Yeah. But I was just like, what on earth? Wow. But again, it was that was an amazing sort of just pot of luck.
Yeah, were you unrepresented at that point? Is that?
I was with an agent briefly, and that didn't really pan out that well. So I was literally this was all sort of self-represented stuff at the time.
Wow.
So I was sort of managing this in a weird way where I was just really not. I didn't really know how to. I was like, thank you for the audition. I will be there, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. And it was for I can't remember. There was a footman character. I can't remember the guys. The guy who got it eventually. He had red hair and tall red-haired guy.
Oh right, yeah.
But I got down to like the last two for that, and they asked me in again, and I got down to the last few for that, and then I didn't get it, and I was like, well, what a great opportunity.
Totes.
And I was, I was like, well, that was really great, and hopefully I made a good impression. And Julian got in contact with me and said, look, you did a really great job. It wasn't your luck this time, but well done. And I thought no more of it. I thought this was a great opportunity, and I was really happy to have done it, and it was great. And then I think probably about 5 months after that, I got a call from Dan Hubbard, and he just called me up and said, "Oh, I've seen I saw your tapes for the last series. Would you like to come in for this role of John Pegg?" And I was like, okay, it was that sort of like, didn't miss real sort of disbelief. And then bizarrely, literally just after a few days of having done it, I found out I got it. And amazing. Yeah. So it was, so that's the very long version, but it makes more sense saying the long version, because otherwise.
Well, otherwise it's like, oh yes, I just casually met.
Yeah, it was just. Well, it was just a regular. It would just sound like a regular audition, and I can't not sort of, because I as my mum calls Julian, Saint Julian.
Right.
Just because to put me in, I suppose to put me in he would never sort of put me in the fold for just offer the guy the part. He wants to see whether you're suited for it, and that for me was a really good lesson in that, I think.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, 100%. And for anyone who doesn't know, I probably should have said this sooner, but Julian Fellowes is the creator-writer of Downton Abbey. Is that correct?
Writer. That's right. Yeah, he did that film Gosford Park.
Yes.
I think he got an Oscar for it as well, actually.
Yeah, I actually really love that movie.
It's great fun.
It's funny because Snezina and I have a funny story about Downton Abbey, don't we, Snezina? I basically destroyed
2 seasons for me.
Yeah, basically destroyed.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should we say it?
Yeah, go for it. Why not?
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, okay, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't.
Downton very late.
A bit too late to the party, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was. I think it was like season 1 or whenever Matthew and what's her face get together.
Oh yes,
right.
Yeah.
Mary, right?
Yes, Mary. That's it.
Mary and Matthew, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever they get together, and then I'm like telling Jen what episode I'm on, and she goes, "Oh, is he walking again?"
Oh god.
And I was like, what do you mean?
And then I was like, oh my god,
if anyone's seen it, you know that he's basically crippled for an entire season, and then it's better.
That's so funny.
He starts to get feeling in his leg. I know, and it's crazy because I was like, oh, so he's walking again then? And you just, the look on your face. Oh, I just destroyed it. It was like, it was so bad.
You really did.
I did. I'm so sorry.
But it's one of the fates of doing sort of that sort of television as well, because people can be at different points.
Yes.
In it, and you don't really sort of know. I sort of just tend to ease on the side of caution and just be like, I'm not going to say anything, just unless you, because people do really get upset. It's like it does, and it sounds like Snezina obviously got very upset by that.
Well, I think I was just so in it, and it was just really like a long period of time before that was going to happen. Yeah. And so as I'm watching it, I'm like, well, he's going to walk again, clearly. And so,
That's very funny, because it's like my parents have only just finished watching the whole box set of The Sopranos.
Oh.
And my mum and dad absolutely loved it, but it was one of those things where it had just been that sort of thing that they had the box set for ages and they just hadn't got around to watching it. And my mum at the end of every the beginning of every conversation, don't tell me what happens.
Yeah.
Because it was just because it's everything's so detailed. Obviously, the Sopranos is obviously so detailed, but it was one of those scenarios where you're just like, oh, right, I can't say anything at all. It's like, have you got here yet? No. Don't say another word.
You just ruined everything.
You ruined season 4. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. But I have learnt my lesson. Although I think I did almost.
Jen's learned her lesson.
Yeah, I definitely have. I think I almost ruined something for Snegina again, but I think it got caught quickly. I can't remember what it was, but yeah. So now I've just learnt to just be like, oh, have you seen this show?
Yeah.
I did it to my mum for something the other day where I ruined 2 episodes for her. She's like, 2 episodes? I knew what was going on. 2 episodes. I'm like, I'm sorry.
It's too right.
I'm waiting my life away. I'm waiting my life away when I'm waiting on you. I'm waiting my life away. I'm waiting my life away.
Jeff Bryant, out now. How have you found it actually, Joncie? Now, because obviously, you've got a fresh new baby, because we'll call it a fresh one.
Yep.
How old is little Finn?
Finn is he's going to be 9 months very soon. So he's started crawling now actually in the last few days, which has been quite terrifying because every time we put him on our bed, it's sort of like we can't actually keep him on this bed because he's
on the move.
It's like, well, I don't know if that's an edge that I'm going to fall over, but I'm going to give it a go. And so, yeah, it's really just, we've only recently started putting up those sort of, safety features that you find around the house where you're just like, right, he's going to start touching those things. And and what's really, really terrifying is that he has a fondness for things that look like wires.
Oh no!
So, because I was just like, well, this is great. The next, at least 10 years. Well, no, not 10 years, but the next 5 years. Hopefully, not 10 years, but next 5 years he's going to be, touching things that you shouldn't be touching.
Wires.
Chewing wire. Yeah. What sort of child do I have? But it's that sort of because he had my headphones the other day, and he was just happily just chewing them, and I was just like, oh God, right. Well, as long as he's chewing those, that's fine. But but now he's crawling, going to a corner of a room where there are wires. I'm just like, I'm literally, don't move anymore now. Stop. And he's like, he'll just smile at me and carry on, and just be like, no, I intend to make this interesting.
Yeah, I have to say, I do enjoy seeing the little stories of either him. He's such a well-dressed, dapper young man.
That's nothing to do with me. That's completely his mother. Because I unfortunately have taken after my own dad. We don't sort of specialise in dapper wear. We sort of will find something that looks like a piece of clothing and go, yeah, that will work. And obviously I have to sort of think differently outside the box if I go for meetings, of course.
Yes.
But general day-to-day attire is not my sort of field of knowledge, unfortunately. I wish it was, because like Laura would probably say to me, like as she would probably the other day, I'd get him up in the morning and put clothes on him before breakfast, and she'd be like, oh, what have you put him on? What have you put him in there? it'd be like a combination of a shirt and like jogging pants, and he'd be like,
amazing.
But they're just, apparently it doesn't go, and I'm like, I don't understand what that means. What do you mean it doesn't go? It fits on him. Surely that's the main thing.
Well, I would say on this podcast, Snegina is definitely the best dressed of, and she no. We can't see you at the moment, Snegina, but I'm sure you're far more put together than at least me.
Definitely me as well. Literally,
Snegina can chuck a bag on, and it would still look coordinated.
You should see what I'm wearing right now.
I hope you send me a selfie. I'm just kidding.
I will.
No, but I think some people are just born with that gift of knowing what kind of like colours go together or what type of clothes. I just don't have that gift at all.
Yeah, I'm sort of I'm amazed when I see sort of parents around and about. Like, you know, they I suppose it is like, it almost feels like in competitive sport being a parent now. I mean, especially with mothers, I think it seems as well. Like, you know, I will have the best child in this bloody room if I can help it. And, you know, it's really, I mean, it's quite overwhelming. You're like, you sort of, I mean, we took, before the other lockdown happened, we were taking Finn to swimming lessons, and it was just that sort of, obviously most of the kids there were older than him, but it was that sort of thing of just, you actually just do see periodically how when kids get older, just even it more intensely, how especially mothers are incredibly like, I will make this person the best person in this room. It's a very sort of like, wow, God, this is what it's like being, this is what my parents were like, you know. It's that sort of
it's the accessories as well too, I think.
I mean, this is the other. Should he wear a baseball cap? Should he wear a summer hat? No, a summer hat looks more graceful. Like, why? What does that even mean? What does that mean? He's just covering the sun.
Yeah, he's just covering the sun. I like that.
Yeah.
He's just covering the sun.
Yeah.
Do you think being a dad has kind of changed anything for you? Like, 'cause obviously, you know, do you think, because I know sometimes you talk to people and they think, or they feel like it's made them more empathetic, or it's made them think differently about life and all that. Do you think it's changed you much in that way, or?
Yeah, I would say it's probably made me, because I'll be honest with you, I'm not the most responsible person. I wasn't the most responsible person in terms of just being organised.
Right.
In terms of organisation and being really, I suppose, just being on top of things. And I think when you have a little person walking around, that sort of side of your brain sort of suddenly switches on, and you have to kind of be more accessible. Mm-hmm. And I think it helps things across the board, to be honest. You know, I think there are a lot of benefits, bizarrely, that come from it. I was never sure how that it would sort of pan out, because I was thinking, oh God, am I just gonna download all my insecurities to this person? You know, and that's your kind of worry. It's such a weird thing, because you know, from when they're born, you're like, the first night actually was really interesting, because Laura and I we just didn't know what to do. We're like, oh God, what do we do? He's crying, and it was because Laura was obviously incredibly tired, but I hadn't seen it, because there was you couldn't watch the birth, and then you had to go like shortly after, so I didn't see them for
hard.
Yeah, it was like a 3-day period, so it was like I was at home sort of going, God, what's going on? You know, and if I ever had to drop anything off to them at the hospital, it would just be like through a nurse, through a sort of a door, you know, with your mask on and everything.
Wow.
So yeah. I think this year has been really interesting. I don't think no other parent I think would have experienced something like this year in a good way, because everything is practically stopped in some sense of the word. I wouldn't have been here as much, I don't think. Mm-hmm. And being around every day for the most part has been really, it's been amazing, you know, and that for me is, I suppose, being the most important thing, being there at the very early stages. Mm-hmm. But I think also relative to things like work and stuff, it's bizarrely enhanced things, because you have to know when you have to do things, and certain times you can't, you know, like if you're prepping like a self-tape or whatever. It sort of just made me more aware of scheduling things better. Mm-hmm. and it's working around him really more than anything else.
Well, totally. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's all positive. I can't really see a negative.
Oh no, I'm sure not. No.
I may see a negative. maybe the negative is if it's 6 a.m. and I'm sort of have to go and, you know, give him, you know, what's up? Well, you're awake. You're very much awake. You're more awake than I am. And then he sort of grins up at me. Yep, I'm very much awake, and we'll be up for several hours still. And it's like, now to do your breakfast. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's
Got to try and match his energy, and you're like, I'm not there yet, mate. I'm not there yet.
It's what's interesting as well, actually, because he has about 2 naps during the day, and you kind of know when he starts sort of making particular over-exerting noises. That's sort of your tell sign where you go, right, you're going to bed.
Yeah.
that's a cue where you can go, now I can get some things done. That's the important thing. But
Which probably again makes you more organised too, because you're like, right, I've only got a certain amount of time to like cram as much stuff in.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I've been doing sort of one-to-one acting coaching from home as well, and like every so often I've had to bring him in if he's woken up suddenly, and the people on T-shirt don't mind at all, but it's just one of those things where you bring a baby into a class that you're taking, you're like, do you mind?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, just pass the parcel, but like a very precious parcel. Like, just be careful. There you go.
I also have to caveat that with the fact that because I'm doing I do more stuff at sort of in the morning towards lunch, because like his mum is mostly up during the night, so she's doing the proper legwork as opposed to me, who actually gets a full night's sleep, which
Bless her little cotton socks. My gosh. What is it that your wife does, out of curiosity?
Well, so she trained as a photographer. She did sort of interpret it. Okay,
yes, I have asked this. Yeah.
A lot of sort of different stuff, and then now she works for a company called CMR Surgical, who sort of do robotic things for surgery, robotic surgery. Wow. So like making surgery more accessible for doctors. So it's more precise, and she's more on this sort of HR sort of side of things, and basically admin stuff, but making sure things run smoothly within that. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty.
I mean, she sort of runs 2 kind of departments here in this house, trying to sort me and Finn out, and when she's back at work, it's the same sort of thing. So she has her work cut out.
Yes, definitely.
And she does very well. I have to, I have to hand it to her.
I mean, I don't want to sound too stereotypical, but that's women. I feel like they are literally multitask geniuses.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, do you know what though? I think it's one of those things where you just have to kind of, you do your best, and then you kind of just go, yeah, I forgot all that stuff. Yeah, sorry. It's a lot of apologies I've had to make, but particularly of late, I've sort of gone, sorry, I forgot to put that in the dishwasher, or it's
She's
a lot
like,
of that.
it's fine, don't worry, whilst doing that and 3 other things at the same time. You're like, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. But again, I think again, this is another thing is when having a baby, I think it sort of enhances all of that for both of you. It sort of makes you kind of realise that all the silly stuff that you'd probably normally get really annoyed with, you don't sort of think about as much, so you kind of drop that stuff, which is good for me because there's a long list.
Cool. Well, I think I think we're going to go to the questions things, because actually we're doing great. This time has just flown by. It's too, really.
So I've got a bit of a motor mouth. So
no, but it's lovely because it's interesting as well, because it's big work that you've done. Also, being a dad, those things are interesting. It's good. It's good. It's hard when someone's difficult to pull stuff out of. So it's better this way. No, so you're like, I'm motor mouth, but no, you're great. You're good. You're good. So I've got 2 questions for today.
Sure.
I don't know how they're going to go, but we'll give it a go. Okay. So the first question, so obviously being the guest, Joncie, you're going to go first on this one. Okay. So if you could bring back any fashion trend, what would it be?
Oh God! we if you remember, we did talk about my fashion taste.
I know,
earlier,
that's why I'm enjoying the answer for this one.
Oh right, okay. Do you know what? I actually, when I do sort of dress smartly, which is every so often, from time to time, I do like wearing but it's a particular kind of, you know, when you see series like Mad Men, they've got those. I just like those suits.
Ooh, yeah.
I suppose it's that type of suit. I mean, I know those suits probably still exist, but it's that sort of thing. But I mean, if you want to go sort of old, like, I mean, I have worn sort of what do you call it, suits of armour and stuff.
Oh wow!
So I wore one once when I was at drama school, and that was really cool because it was really heavy, but it was very cool, and I bring that back.
Oh, I love it. It would make it a very interesting medieval world, I guess, if everyone's just like wandering around in armour, like what's up?
Well, in 2021 it would be very weird. Like, why is he driving with suits of armour on? Yeah. Morning, you know.
Imagine trying to get out of your car.
Well, that's the other thing, you know. You have a battle axe with you, and
yes.
you have some other stuff, and you're like, sorry, could you perhaps help me with my helmet?
Yes, exactly.
Well, going to the loo would be impossible.
Oh my gosh, yeah, no, that would be insane.
Yeah.
Good choices. I like that. What about you, Snezina?
If we could just dress like the way we did in the 20s, I think that would make me happy.
Very cool.
But like just fully just dress up like that, and the hair and everything. Oh, yeah, so good.
Oh, your hair would be
more
perfect
effort
for it.
Yeah, but it's still I have nostalgia for that.
Totally.
But there's a charm to it.
Yeah,
there is
totally.
a real charm to it.
Yeah. Jen?
What were you going to say as the easier thing?
Oh, no.
No, go. Do it.
You want me to hear?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, I feel like bell-bottoms go in and out of style, and I kind of like them.
Yeah.
So I feel like, yeah, they look good on me, so I should come back in.
I love that. Yeah. Is bell-bottoms, is that basically flares?
Yeah, like the ones that kind of flare out from your knee. Like the 70s pants.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like because I'm really tall, they just look good on me. But the high-waisted ones, not the low-waisted ones that everyone wore in like the early 2000s.
Yeah, how dare they? High-waisted or nothing.
Whenever I see people with the low-waisted pants and like a part of their belly showing, I'm like, oh, imagine feeling that wind on your stomach. Like, I just love high-waisted pants so much now. Oh, it's brilliant.
No, I know. Actually, I did see, I mean, this is a weird sidebar, but I was out walking with Lee, actually it was only yesterday, and there was this girl, and bearing in mind, I think it had been snowing that day, it was freezing, and this girl was walking along in a crop top, some leggings that just kind of were just under her belly button, and then she was wearing like a light denim jacket, and I was like, where do you think you are? But she was all she was like arms crossed, and I'm like, well, you could have just worn more clothes. You didn't need to come out in a crop top and leggings and a little denim jacket and being like, oh, it's so cold, well, just wear more. Anyway,
I know,
that's my little...
Where was she going? There's nowhere to go at the moment.
She was going to the park as well, which was very bizarre.
Oh,
I was like, what are you doing? Anyway, although I probably would have done something like that as a kid. I'd have been like, no, I'm fine, whilst my lips are blue.
That's so like the young girls
it is.
Vibe. I remember just freezing my ass off because I wanted to wear something cute out. Yeah, horrible.
The pain.
Yeah.
Me, what would I bring back that was sort of fashionable? I don't think... Yeah, I like the idea of those kind of like, what they called, like the 60s dresses. Like they were just like super puffy and lovely. Sure. Whereas like for me, I don't get dressed up ever. So if
the poodle skirts?
Yes.
That's what they called them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. See, someone who knows fashion who can help me. I'm like, those puffy...
I wouldn't have been able to help you there. I'd be like, the puffy dresses.
Yes. Poodle skirts. Yes, that's exactly it. Because I feel like that would just be lovely. But I
Oh, you'd look cute with that. And the little, like, dress shoes with the socks coming up a little bit.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
Yes.
good one.
I would.
Good
yes.
one.
Okay, that's
Grease
decided. Yes. Oh, grease lightning. Yes, I would be well on that. Okay. That's not too bad.
60s dress is also really specific as well. You can really point. It's like you can really point out where the 60s is, can't you? With, you know, it's very, very specific. I mean, 80s as well you can, but I mean, 60s specifically, yeah.
100%. No, that's good answers. I like that. That's a good one. Okay, now I'm going to put you first now, Sagina, on this next story. Or story. Okay. Not story, but it actually is. So what is your best scar story? Assuming you have scars. Yeah. Do you have a scar?
Oh, I have so many now.
Yeah, but what's your best one?
Best scar story?
Yeah.
I don't know if they're good stories to getting a scar. Oh, okay, sure. I'll give you
like
this one.
you battled a shark to save a dog or something.
Totally. Ooh, no, now I have two. Oh.
I love how
okay,
that
no. This is the better one. This is the better one. Okay. I was in Greece with my sister, my little sister, and we had a couple of drinks on the beach and the sun was starting to set, but we decided we still wanted to go for a swim. And we're in the water, and then there's this sort of like seaweed barrier thing where if you go on top of it and cross it, you can get to the deeper side.
Nice.
So I cross it, and then I start feeling this burning sensation like on my chest, around my breast, and I'm like, what is that? And then I got up, and there was like all these little sort of like anemone strings hanging from... well, my boob, basically. And I was like, oh, what the heck? But I was like kind of drunk. Anyway, so I pulled them off, but I guess they have little like hooks that hook into your skin.
Oh, no.
So the next day it like boiled up like a burn, like all boiled and crazy.
Ooh.
And that scar took almost a year to heal because, I don't know, something about their, like, I don't know, sea venom or whatever gets in your skin and it takes a super long time to heal. So I still have that scar there. But, yeah, it was like those evil sea anemones.
Yeah, how dare they?
Wow.
They got you good.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But then the next day we were walking around and this girl had it literally all down her leg. So everybody who lived there was like, this is an anomaly, like this has never happened before. So
and you're like, it happened to me yesterday.
Global warming, weird stuff in the sea. I don't know.
Weird.
Mutated anemones. But yeah, I guess that was my best scar story. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's quite a story. I'm not sure I've got anything that good. Go on, Joncie. What's your best scar story?
Oh right. I've got a couple. I suppose that probably when I was 14, it was the end of the I can't remember what World Cup it was. It was the Rugby World Cup, and I was sort of kicking my rugby ball outside, and I kicked it over a neighbour's fence into their garden, and I thought nothing of it, so I climbed over the neighbour's fence. It was a corrugated fence, so it was, slightly rigid, and I slipped, and my leg almost went right through my leg. Oh my gosh! So it went. It's fortunate. I mean, I say fortunately, it went into my leg, and it was very, 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 very painful. I didn't realise at the time what had happened. It was just very, very sore. And funnily enough, it was at Halloween, which added to the kind of gore, the gore element, because
and it was like cool costume, man.
Well, it wasn't even that. It was the fact that I was screaming incredibly loudly, and I was banging on the garden entrance to my parents' house. And my mum, my mum. Well, I know. My mum was like, "What is it? What is it? What is it?" And I said, my leg. And then she was like, well, she started really freaking out, because then she took my trousers down, and then my whole leg had completely like opened up, and and fortunately what it seemed to have done was the fact that I was wearing jeans at the time, so because obviously they're quite hard wearing, if I hadn't been wearing jeans, it would have been a lot worse, but it was really bad. I mean, it was bad to such a degree that my mum was sort of like, she was called the ambulance and stuff. My dad was almost back from work, but my sister and her friends were walking around in witches' outfits, which was really weird because my mum was making popcorn, so in the background she had left the popcorn just to stop burning, and there was this smoke billowing round in the house while I was lying down on the floor, sort of screaming my heart out. And my dad got home thinking, "Oh God, what's he done now?" And then my dad was like, "Oh my God." Yeah, and I was very, very close to dying actually, which it was like an inch away from an artery in my leg. So
God.
yeah, it was really. I didn't realize how serious it was at the time until they went, "You realize this was really very serious?" And I was like, because I've got it was my whole thigh, so I've got a massive scar that goes around my entire thigh.
Wow.
But yeah, that's I seem to be quite accident prone is another thing. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, to be honest, I think anyone who says they aren't accident prone is probably a liar, because I feel like I'm just like a walking disaster. I'm always going to put food on my top, or I'm going to trip, or I'm going to say something wrong, or so I'm like, other people must be the same. So whenever I hear someone saying I'm just accident prone, I'm like, thank God that there's a lot more people out there. Thank goodness for that. Wow. Yeah, no, that's intense.
It was intense, and it's weird that when you remember stuff like that. I mean, especially what Sniggy was saying just about her experience. It's that when you have those moments, I think particularly, you can remember exactly where you were. You remember exactly what was going on. It's very specific. Mm-hmm. To how whether it was a light day or if it was a grey day or whatever. It's really it's amazing how specific people can be about it as well, because it's so it can be so traumatic.
Some people might say it scarred you.
Oh,
It certainly did.
Well played, Snezina. Well played. Oh gosh, right. Well, mine is definitely not as well. I mean, I guess it sort of was, but it's scars. Not. Oh yeah. Well, I've got one on my eyebrow that I've had since a baby. But most people don't even recognize or notice until photographers take my photo and then they want to edit out because it just looks like an untidy eyebrow. But it looks like, there was that fashion for a while where people would kind of like put like a line in their eyebrows. It's basically what like my eyebrow looks. Yeah, it's a bit like what that looks like. But that's something that happened when I was a baby. So obviously I wasn't really aware of it, but my parents obviously like panicked like crazy. I basically just fell forward into a corner of a table and just slit my eyebrow open. But the story I was going to say is so when I was in Halifax and I was getting into actually not getting into, I'd already been there for a year, but I was working at this dinner theatre, I was kind of like doing like singing, dancing, acting, and also drumming as well. But this particular thing, I was meant to be doing a dance routine with a partner. It's meant to be swing dance. And the director was trying out something new. And so I was meant to like swing up in the air and then land behind my dance partner, like seamlessly.
Oh, this one.
Oh, yes. And so the first time we did it and it was okay, but then I felt like this weird twinge in my knee and I thought, okay. And then the second time we did it, there was a loud pop and I just went straight to the ground. Yes. And I was in a lot of pain, like shit ton of pain. And literally that was like a role that I really wanted to play, but obviously I knew immediately I was going to be like out of action. And I got, one of my friends who was part of the show, she took me home and she was like explaining the situation to my parents. And my parents were like, okay, we can't see any blood. It doesn't look like it's swollen, so maybe you've just twisted something. And I was like, yeah, I'll, and they were like, but I think we should still go to the hospital. I was like, no, I'm fine. Me being me. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm sure I'll just sleep it off and then be all right. Anyway,
dear.
Throughout the night, I couldn't move because my knee was so painful. And it became like, it was so hot. And I also couldn't get out of bed because I was like stuck there. And when my mum came down to me in the morning, I was like white where I hadn't slept. And mum was like, are you okay? I was like, I think I need to go to hospital.
Wow.
And mum was like, okay. And then flash forward, we ended up finding out that I'd completely torn my ACL.
Oh, God.
And also torn my cartilage in my knee also.
Ooh.
So the surgery I needed was, there were a couple of options, but the one I went for is they took a part of my hamstring muscle to create a new ACL in my knee, which then obviously is a longer recovery, but I basically have like a sideways slanty smiley face on my knee now where they had to drill in 3 times and then cut to get the hamstring muscle. So that's my scar story. I wouldn't say it's fun, but it's definitely the most obvious when I'm wearing shorts or anything above the knee. So yeah, drilling. Fun.
That's extraordinary.
Yes.
Wow.
It was painful. I know. What a downer to end the podcast on. It's like,
and goodbye, everybody.
Okay, I just have to ask one upbeat, quick question just to try and change the ending of this podcast rather than ending on like scars and ACL tearing. Okay, most used emoji, Joncie. Do you even use emojis?
I do on my emails. I sort of do a smile. I just do a smile emoji. That's really, and it sounds very basic. I don't know how to use technology that well, so I just gave the safe smile.
Safe smile, nice. What about you, Snezina?
Probably the thumbs up because I'm doing it to clients or to actors and people. Nice. Yeah, cool, thumbs up.
Good for you.
Yeah, get on. I feel like mine is probably the laughing, crying face to the side. I feel like that's my main one that I do.
Good one.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, which is a nice way to end. Joncie, honestly, it's been really, really lovely and so interesting having you on our episode today. I hope you've enjoyed yourself.
Stories.
Yeah,
I have. I hope I haven't sort of gone on overkill a bit. I'm always very aware that I do kind of talk a bit too much.
No, you're great. It's very, very interesting because it's something.
I guess we'll find out. No,
exactly. Yeah, no. I think it's one of those old things where you have when sort of, I suppose when you're an actor and you're talking about yourself, you're like, oh God, am I talking about myself too much in a way that sounds too self-indulgent? But anyway, I'll leave it there. Yeah. No, thank you so. Thank you so much for having me on.
No, thank you. Well, I'm sure I'm going to be, talking to you now and again on the old social media, and who knows, you might even be able to meet one day in life because we actually live in the same country. So what a joy!
Amazing. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Sweet. So how about on 3 we all say goodbye?
Okay.
Okie dokie. 3. Oh no, wait. 1. Sorry. Ignore me. I've been so tired all day. Right. So 1, 2, 3. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Lovely. We're good.
Jen and I always sing it.
I know, and everyone's always like, what, bye? That's great.
It's great.
That's awesome.
And scene.
Awesome sauce. Thank you, Joncie. That was really, really great. Really great. Are you still there? Anyway, yes, that was Joncie.
It was.
He shot straight out of there, but that's fine.
Clicking by.
But yeah, it was interesting. I feel like we're noticing a common theme, aren't we, about people being able to get work just by showing initiative.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important Because I feel like a lot of the younger generation has forgot about that a little bit, or maybe just doesn't even really understand how much they should be putting into things on their own. Again, on my rant of like the instant gratification of doing, you know, the minimal and then getting rewarded. But no, that's so great. I mean, his story is a perfect example of how to make things happen for yourself. I mean, that's insane. Thanks, Daddy Joncie, for coming up with such a quirky idea of, you know, getting someone's attention. And obviously it worked. Like, that's insane. That doesn't happen, but obviously it does. So
Clearly.
You have to try, right?
I know. It's mad. I'm glad that he did it the way that he did it, I guess, by creating a scroll and it being sealed with wax and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, good old dad, hey? Because honestly, he has a lot. I guess he has a lot to thank his dad for that. With that, just for coming up with that crazy idea. Because then obviously that led to him being like a series regular of the English Game, which I know you mentioned that Sean has watched it. It's all about the origins of football, but he's like a series regular, and there's like episodes that are completely kind of dead. Like he has whole story arcs in episodes, and it's, you know, obviously I know. Downton Abbey, obviously, he was originally up for Alfred, and obviously he only had like a two episode thing on Downton Abbey, but I still remember him on it. But the fact that then led to the English Game, I think is just really cool. And who knows what's beyond, especially making an ally like that with Julian Fellowes. I mean, that's a pretty strong ally.
Yeah. Well, I think it makes sense that he only got like a couple episodes. I mean, everybody in that show was so heavily established. So, I mean, I feel like everyone who was getting anything more substantial on there, it would either have to last for a really long time or it was just a couple episodes. But I feel like a couple episodes on a show like that is like such a huge deal for anybody.
Oh my God.
Even like a one-liner on Downton Abbey would be amazing, but like a couple episodes, like that's incredible.
It is.
So, yeah. And like you and I love that show, obviously. We talked about that.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I know. God, I miss it.
Brilliant.
Did you watch the films?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I still haven't seen the second one.
What? Why?
Wait. There's only one movie, isn't there?
Yeah. Oh, no. I think you're thinking about the Christmas special, maybe?
Yeah, no. So I've seen the Christmas special, but I haven't seen the movie. And I'm like, I desperately want to see it, but we were rewatching. I was rewatching. He was watching it for the first time. Downton Abbey, and then we kind of, because the end game was to get to the point where we watched the friggin' movie, which is the whole reason that I wanted to like rewatch it with Lee, so he would actually watch the goddamn movie with me. But then I think something happened, and then we just stopped. I think we stopped in like season 4 or something. And so I think there's only like 2 seasons left, maybe. And it's like, but like I almost want to try and wrench him back in. Either that or I'm just going to have to do it on like a Sunday morning or something.
I was going to say, if I were you, I would just like find some time and watch it.
Yeah.
It's very cute. It's like, it's very nostalgic. So you get all the feelings and you're like, oh, it's very sweet. Like, yeah. It's nothing groundbreaking. I actually don't really remember what happened in it, but I guess it was like, we watched it just before the pandemic or something. So obviously all that time's a little bit erased, but it was really cute. We watched it with a bunch of little old ladies in our theater. It's so typical cute. What you would imagine of who's going to watch that. And me and Sean, of course. But yeah, I think I told you this before, but it's kind of funny. I wanted to watch it with Sean. And I had a trip coming up with the family. And I'm like, okay, let's like just watch a few episodes and then we'll just watch the rest when I get back. And when I got back, he had finished the entire series because he was so hooked. And I was pissed because I really wanted to rewatch it again.
Of course.
And I was like, what? But that just shows how much it pulls you in, which is cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know. I kind of want to rewatch it, actually, to be honest. Just for my own benefit.
Just for the feels.
I know. There's so much emotion.
Well, so I was thinking about this yesterday of what to say of what I've been watching, and I have some things and I know people like to hear about it.
Yes.
I have 3 things to talk about. 3. 1, Netflix just canceled a show that I absolutely adored. That was just released, which is sad. It was called The Irregulars. I told you about it. It was a really fresh take on Sherlock Holmes, and it was all these like orphan, like poor, diverse teens that lived in like London in the 1800s, and they were all such good actors, and it had so much heart, and it was so fun. But I think maybe why they canceled it was because there's a show called The Nevers on HBO, and it's literally the same time period. It's about magic and people having powers, and I feel like it was maybe too similar, and like HBO always trumps. But it's such a shame because it was so good. Those kids better get another thing on Netflix because they were amazing. So that was sad. I saw that yesterday. I was like, no!
What?
Yeah, but second thing, I'm on episode 3 of Mar of Easttown, where Kate Winslet's new show. It is brilliant. We're loving it. It's so well done. She's fantastic. It's obviously a murder mystery. Duh.
Of course.
But it's so rich, and they really did good character development, and it's good. It's so good.
Oh, nice.
And she's so like greasy and like, but not too much, but just like kind of greasy. And you're like, it's interesting to see her that way. But yeah, excellent show. And then the third thing, I just saw that they released photos of the new Game of Thrones offshoot about what are they called? The Targaryens? No.
Oh, yeah, because the Targaryens was like the beginning of like, I guess Daenerys.
Yeah, Daenerys' whole line with the white-haired people. So they were showing photos of that. Fingers crossed they don't fuck it up, because you and I both know how easy it is to fuck up.
Of course.
Something like that. So
something that's truly beloved. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit afraid, but I'm sure the fans will rip it to shit, as they always do. But we'll see. So yeah, that was my little thing. Sorry, I had insomnia last night, and this is what I was thinking about in my head.
What am I going to say?
It was on the tip of my tongue. I had to let it out for everyone to hear.
I love it.
Yeah,
of course.
But anyway.
Give the people what they want.
Do you have something that you want to talk about?
I mean, I don't really think we've been watching like very light stuff recently. It's like there's this show called Grand Designs, and it basically like they'll buy like one of the ones we watched the other day was this basically, it was an old mill, and it was just dilapidated, and these people, it was in Cornwall, so like a really beautiful place, and then these people kind of came in, and they were going to basically turn it into a house. And it was just, I mean, it was so interesting, but it was just it was gentle, but they started it in like November, I think 2018, and the episode's only recently been released. So that's how long it took to sort it out. Like literally there was like wood crumbling, like it wasn't safe. So much of the stuff was just like ready to collapse. And they were like, we only have this much money to like do it. And you're like, oh my God. And they're living in a caravan in a shed. And you're just like, oh, that sounds awful.
That's devotion to a project.
I know. And seriously, I'm like looking at Liam like, I would divorce you.
No. Yeah, exactly. No, I love those shows. I love home flips. They're amazing. Yeah, well, that being said, that the Mar of Easttown only comes out once a week. So in the middle of that all, I've been watching tons of reality TV to get me through. Because in the box of television, there's no COVID, and it's just like some regular other world thing, even if it's reality TV, just kind of disconnect. But yeah, been watching Blown Away. It's like the glass blowing show.
Oh yes, I've seen that. Yeah,
it's amazing.
I haven't watched it, but
it relaxes me to see that like the glass all shapely and I don't know,
taking
it's so good.
Shape. No, I like it.
Taking shape. Yeah. We started watching this show last night. I just watched it to make myself laugh. It was called Pup Stars or something. Pup Stars? No, Pet Stars. It's like, this is the best job ever. Like, this is the job I want. It is a talent agency for animals in Los Angeles, and it's 2 women. And in the first one, they go to like the world's ugliest dog show somewhere in Northern California. Wow. And it's just absolutely amazing. It's just a pleasure to watch every single animal that comes through. It's just like heart-meltingly delicious, and I loved every minute of it. And I was like, how do I transition my career from repping people to repping animals?
Yeah, well, you can create a separate roster just for
Illyria animals. It's already like, it's just beautiful. It just works. It's just
it
a
does.
thing. I looked at Sean. I was like, Illyria animals. This is what we're doing now. Take notes.
Yeah, take notes. Take notes, Sean. It's happening. It's going to be a thing. It's going to be a thing.
But yeah. Anyway, that's all I have to say, everybody.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you do, why not give it a review? We are now on IMDb, so you can review us on IMDb. I know. Or Apple Podcasts, or I don't know. There's not really a lot else I can say where you couldn't review us, because there's not a lot of places where you can.
Just pop us a comment.
Yeah. And also
Feel
if you've
free
got
to
an
reach
idea
out.
for like, yeah, for sure. If you've got an idea of like what we could talk about, or you've got questions for us, just, drop into our DMs. That's also completely fine. Does it slide into your DMs?
Slide into the DMs.
It just shows how uncool I am.
Drop into those DMs.
But the cool thing is that we will soon be releasing podcasts that also have video.
Ooh, so you can see our quirky, weird faces.
Exactly.
Live.
Well, the thing is, next week's episode, Snezina and I were testing out the whole video thing, so it only really lasts for 30 minutes. So you get at least 30 minutes of what the podcast would have been with our faces. But don't worry. No, not even the one after that. But the one after that has video. It's coming. Anyway, it's coming. It's coming. It's in the pipe works.
Everyone's on the edge of their seat for that one. The one after that. The one after that.
Yeah, exactly. Just hold on. It's coming. It's coming. Yeah. But yeah. Until then, take care, and I guess you'll listen to us soon.
Bye.
Bye. What the fuck was that?